New planetary and seismic update. The critical planetary and lunar geometry that I discussed in the previous update on the 4th and the 6th of September unfortunately resulted in a devastating earthquake in Morocco on 8 September. If we look at the SSGI graph magnitude 5.6 and larger, we see a huge clustering on 8 September. I estimated that the most critical time would be approximately from 5 to 7 September. We see the huge clustering on 8 September, including two 6 magnitude earthquakes. And again, unfortunately, a deadly earthquake in Morocco. My heart goes out to all those affected. This was a really bad natural event. If we look at the history of Morocco, we do not see many large earthquakes. There have been deadly earthquakes in the past, magnitude 5.8 and also into the low 6 magnitude range, but a 6.8, 6.9 earthquake is really large. And since recording of earthquakes began around 1900, there has not been a large earthquake like this. We have to go back to 1755, November 27th, to see a similar sized earthquake, which actually occurred to the north. And that occurred about 4 weeks after a really large earthquake struck off the coast of Portugal, estimated 8.5 to 9 magnitude. That was on November 1st, 1755. I discussed the Azores Cape St. Vincent Ridge before, even in the previous update, because of the atmospheric fluctuation that occurred on 30th of August recently. And I put emphasis on the Azores Cape St. Vincent Ridge because it can produce large earthquakes, major and even great seismic activity, and it has been remarkably quiet along that ridge in the last 45-47 years. Whereas from the 1930s to the 1970s, there have been major and even great earthquakes along that ridge between Portugal and the Azores. So we can conclude that there is a relationship between the activity off the coast of Portugal and earthquakes in Morocco. This time it started with a magnitude 6.9, and it is possible, I mean, these are signs of building stress in the region, and it is possible that it will not be long for a larger earthquake to occur along the Azores Cape St. Vincent Ridge. And if you are near the coast of Portugal, Spain or Morocco, you have to be aware of the danger that lies off your coast. There can be really large seismic activity, and if that were to happen, it will produce a tsunami, and you have to be aware of that. Okay. The activity on 8 September did not go unnoticed. Even scientist John Cassidy on Twitter, he stated that there was a whole lot of shaking going on. And he was right, there was an obvious clustering of strong earthquakes, magnitude 5.6 and larger, a whole lot of them on 8 September. And we have to look at the positions of the planets and the moon to actually explain this activity. It is a well-known phenomenon in seismology that there is often a clustering of stronger earthquakes, and then we have a couple of days, several days, maybe even a week without a single larger earthquake. And we have warned for this. In the previous update, I warned for this possibility of strong major seismic activity following the critical planetary geometry on 4 and 6 September. It shouldn't be underestimated. Okay, let's have a look at the planetary and lunar geometry that we're going to have in the next 9 days or so. We're going to have a couple of planetary conjunctions. On the 14th, Mercury, Sun, Mars, that's later on the 14th. That will be followed by lunar peaks, especially because of a new moon on the 15th, early on the 15th, which will overlap with a lunar conjunction that will be with Neptune. And then also semi-right angles with Venus and Jupiter. We could see some seismic increase on the 15th, 16th as a result, over 5.6 magnitude, maybe into the 6 magnitude range. It depends on the condition of Earth's crust, the stress levels, and that's the one thing that we cannot measure. Then on the 16th, later on the 16th, we have a planetary conjunction that is Sun, Mercury, Jupiter. In itself not too critical, and it will converge more or less with a lunar conjunction with Mars. Then we have a high lunar peak and also a planetary peak converging on the 19th, and I think that that will be more critical. That will be two planetary conjunctions converging, Sun, Mercury, Uranus. That will be early in the morning on the 19th, and shortly after followed by Sun, Earth, Neptune. And that may become critical. In a worst case scenario, we could see a borderline 7 magnitude earthquake. An obvious seismic increase. Again, it depends a bit on the stress levels in Earth's crust, but there could be a larger seismic event that may occur around the 20th, give or take 1 day. Let's say from the 19th to the 21st, I guess, is more critical because of this convergence of planetary and lunar geometry. The lunar geometry is a lunar conjunction with Jupiter, and it will be followed by another lunar conjunction with Uranus. In the solar system, we see this planetary and lunar geometry depicted. The red lines, they are the planetary conjunctions, and we see Earth between the Sun and Neptune. And it will converge with a planetary conjunction Sun, Mercury, Uranus, and that combination can result in a pretty strong and maybe even a major seismic event. And we see the lunar geometry, the lunar conjunctions depicted by the green lines. First, a lunar conjunction with Jupiter, shortly after followed by a lunar conjunction with Uranus. This is the planetary and lunar geometry that we're going to have in the next 9 days or so. If we look at the atmospheric fluctuations that we've been able to pick up, actually not many since 2 September, from 2 September to 11 September, we haven't picked up anything. This may be due to local conditions that we record here. I'm not sure, but on the 11th yesterday we had some fluctuations marking the regions between Kamchatka and Japan. Again, this was also the case on 2 September. There may be something building up there near the Kuril Islands, I'm not sure. And another fluctuation is more to the south, that's Tonga and Samoa. When we record new atmospheric fluctuations, we will update that on the website and also in the social media. This is the update for now. My heart goes out to those affected by the really devastating earthquake in Morocco. I stress it again, it's a devastating event. Unfortunately, we cannot avoid these natural disasters. We just try to anticipate that large